The rain drummed against the tall windows of Harrogate Assembly Rooms on the evening of November 14th, 1827, creating a rhythm that seemed to mock the lilting waltz playing inside. Eleanor Hartwell stood in her customary position, beside the third pillar from the entrance, where the shadows pooled deepest and the candlelight never quite reached. At 31, she had perfected the art of appearing present while being entirely invisible. The assembly rooms smelled of beeswax, damp wool, and the cloying perfume favored by Mrs. Alderton, who stood not 10 feet away, blocking Eleanor's view of the dancers with her considerable frame. Eleanor didn't mind. She had long ago memorized every predictable turn of these provincial balls. Who would dance with whom, which matrons would gossip behind their fans, which young ladies would feign fatigue to avoid undesirable partners. 6 years. 6 years since her father's investments had collapsed, taking with them not only the Hartwell fortune, but her father's life. The apoplexy had struck him 3 days after the creditors seized the London house. Her mother had survived him by only 18 months, wilting like an uprooted orchid in the cramped cottage in Harrogate, where Eleanor's aunt, Mrs. Pettigrew, had grudgingly taken them in. Now Eleanor existed in that peculiar purgatory reserved for gentlewomen without prospects, too well-bred to work, too poor to participate, too old to inspire rescue fantasies in any passing gentleman. Her aunt included her in invitations out of familial obligation and a twisted sort of charity that required witnesses. Each assembly, each afternoon tea, each Sunday service became an exercise in public invisibility, a reminder that Eleanor Hartwell had been weighed by society and found wanting. "Stand straighter," her aunt hissed, appearing suddenly at Eleanor's elbow. Mrs. Pettigrew's face was flushed from dancing, her eyes sharp with perpetual dissatisfaction. "You slouch like a scullery maid. Is it any wonder?" "Aunt Letitia," Eleanor interrupted softly, having learned that gentle interruption sometimes forestalled lengthier criticism. "Your partner is waiting." Mrs. Pettigrew's suitor, a widowed merchant with more ambition than refinement, hovered nearby, and her aunt's expression shifted from contempt to coquettish pleasure with theatrical speed. She swept away without another word. Eleanor exhaled slowly. The evening had perhaps another hour remaining. She could endure it, as she had endured all the others. Tomorrow she would walk the 3 miles to the lending library, return the Gothic novel she'd been rationing across 10 days, and begin the negotiations for another. The library subscription was her single extravagance, purchased with money earned from mending Mrs. Pettigrew's lace and altering her gowns. The music stopped. In the pause before the next set, voices rose in a sudden swell of excitement near the entrance. Eleanor paid it little attention until she noticed the quality of the whispers, shock rather than mere gossip. "Is that truly him? I heard he never attends these provincial affairs. What could bring him to Harrogate?" Eleanor's curiosity stirred despite herself. She shifted position slightly, peering around Mrs. Alderton's formidable silhouette. The man standing in the entrance radiated a quality that Eleanor, in her extensive reading, would have called presence. He was perhaps 35, tall without being ungainly, with dark hair silvered prematurely at the temples. His evening clothes were impeccable but austere. No fobs, no excessive jewelry, nothing to soften the severe line of his jaw or the cold assessment in his gray eyes as he surveyed the assembly. "The Marquess of Ashmont," someone breathed nearby. "Dear God, it's actually him." Eleanor knew the name, though only through rumor and newspaper accounts. The current Marquess had inherited 5 years ago under scandalous circumstances. His older brother had died in a duel over a married woman, and Ashmont himself had disappeared for 3 years prior to that, somewhere on the continent. He was said to be brilliant, ruthless, and utterly indifferent to society's opinion. He maintained his family's 3 estates with cold efficiency, attended Parliament irregularly, and refused every matchmaking attempt with glacial politeness. What such a man was doing in Harrogate's modest assembly rooms, Eleanor could not fathom. The master of ceremonies rushed forward, clearly flustered. The Marquess dismissed him with a brief word, then turned to survey the room with the same methodical assessment one might apply to inventory. His gaze moved across the dancers, the matrons, the young ladies arranged like hothouse flowers in their finest muslins, and stopped on Eleanor. She froze. Surely he was looking past her, at something or someone else. but his gray eyes remained fixed on her position with uncomfortable precision. Then, to her absolute horror, he began walking directly toward her. The crowd parted instinctively. Conversations faltered and died. Eleanor's heart hammered against her ribs with painful force. She glanced behind her, nothing but wall and shadow. When she looked back, he was 3 paces away. 2, 1. He stopped before her and executed a bow of exact correctness, neither too deep nor too shallow, acknowledging her as a lady while offering no particular deference beyond basic courtesy. "Miss Hartwell," he said. His voice was low, controlled, with an edge of something Eleanor couldn't identify. "You will dance with me." It was not a request. Around them, silence had become absolute. Eleanor could feel dozens of eyes fixed upon them, could sense her aunt's shock radiating from across the room. Her mind raced through explanations and found none. The Marquess of Ashmont knew her name, had crossed the room specifically to address her, was now waiting for her response with an expression that suggested refusal was not an option he had considered. Eleanor's voice emerged barely above a whisper. She cleared her throat, found some reserve of dignity she'd thought exhausted. "My lord, I believe you are mistaken. We have not been introduced." Something flickered in those gray eyes. Approval, perhaps. "We have not," he agreed. "Consider this introduction sufficient. The music begins." Indeed, the opening notes of a country dance had started. He extended his gloved hand. Eleanor stared at it, at the aristocratic elegance of those long fingers, at the implicit command in the gesture. Every survival instinct she had developed over 6 years of social invisibility screamed at her to refuse. This was aberration, chaos, danger. Nothing good could come from being singled out so publicly by a man of Ashmont's rank and reputation. And yet something in her, some part that had withered in the shadows, stirred with desperate, reckless hunger. Eleanor placed her hand in his. His grip was firm, warm through both their gloves. He led her onto the floor with the absolute confidence of someone who had never questioned his right to occupy any space he chose. Eleanor moved beside him in a daze, acutely conscious of every stare, every whisper behind fans. They took their positions. The dance began. The Marquess moved through the figures with practiced ease, but Eleanor noticed he didn't watch the other dancers or perform for the audience. His attention remained fixed on her with that same unsettling intensity. When the dance brought them together, close enough to speak, he asked, "Do you know why I've sought you out, Miss Hartwell?" "I confess myself utterly mystified, my lord. Your father was Edwin Hartwell." It was not a question, but Eleanor nodded, feeling the familiar sting of shame that accompanied any mention of her father's disgrace. "He was a man of exceptional talent and abominable judgment," Ashmont continued as they circled each other. "His schemes nearly destroyed 3 of my investments and did destroy 4 other fortunes before his collapse." Eleanor's breath caught. They separated for 8 counts, then came together again. "I have spent considerable resources unraveling the damage he caused," the Marquess said, his tone conversational despite the devastating content. "The final accounting was completed last month. Do you know what I discovered?" Eleanor shook her head, unable to speak. "Your father was not the architect of his own downfall. He was the scapegoat." They turned beneath arched arms, emerged on the other side. Someone very clever used Edwin Hartwell's legitimate business as camouflage for speculation fraud. When it collapsed, they ensured all evidence pointed to him. He died believing himself guilty. Society accepted it without question. The room seemed to tilt. Eleanor's steps faltered, but Ashmont's hand steadied her, proprietary and impersonal at once. "Why are you telling me this?" she managed. "Because I know who truly orchestrated the fraud, and I know why." The music swelled toward its conclusion. "Your father discovered something dangerous, documents proving embezzlement from a fund intended for war widows, significant sums over a decade. He was silenced before he could expose it." They completed the final figure. As the music ended and other dancers applauded politely, Ashmont leaned fractionally closer. "I require your assistance, Miss Hartwell. You possess something I need, something your father left behind, that you may not even recognize as valuable. In exchange, I will restore your father's name and your family's honor. You will receive a settlement sufficient to live independently, with position in society fully reinstated." Eleanor's mind reeled. What could I possibly possess that... Not here. His voice cut through her question with quiet authority. "Tomorrow afternoon, 3 o'clock, there is a private parlor at the King's Head Inn on High Street. Come alone or do not come at all. The choice is yours, Miss Hartwell, but I will not make this offer twice." He stepped back, bowed formally, and walked away before Eleanor could respond. She stood alone in the center of the floor, trembling as the assembly erupted into furious whispered speculation around her. Her aunt appeared at her side, face mottled with emotion. "What did he say? Eleanor, answer me at once. What could the Marquess of Ashmont possibly want with—" "He wished to express condolences regarding father," Eleanor heard herself say, the lie emerging smooth and practiced. Apparently they had mutual business acquaintances years ago. It was plausible enough that her aunt accepted it, though suspicion lingered in her narrowed eyes. Eleanor allowed herself to be shepherded to the retiring room, submitted to 20 minutes of interrogation disguised as concern, and eventually escaped into the rain-washed night with her aunt and cousin. She did not sleep. She lay in her narrow bed in the tiny room she occupied in her aunt's house, staring at shadows on the ceiling and trying to order her chaotic thoughts. Her father, innocent. The idea was almost too enormous to contemplate. For 6 years she had carried his shame like a physical weight, had accepted society's verdict that Edwin Hartwell was a fool and worse, and now a stranger, an aristocrat with no apparent motive to lie, claimed it was all fabrication. But what did he want from her? Eleanor mentally catalogued her possessions: 3 dresses, 1 pelisse, some undergarments, 2 pairs of gloves, books. Nothing of value. When they'd been forced from the London house, the creditors had taken everything. The few items her mother had managed to preserve, some jewelry, a miniature portrait, letters, had been sold to pay for her mother's burial, unless her father had hidden something, sent something away before the end. Eleanor rose before dawn and went to the small writing desk in the corner, not truly hers, merely lent grudgingly by her aunt. She had 1 locked drawer. Its key hung on a ribbon around her neck. Inside were her mother's few final letters, brittle with age and tears. Beneath them, wrapped in oilcloth, were the only items she'd claimed from her mother's effects before her aunt could dispose of them. A small Morocco leather notebook, its pages covered in her father's precise accounting hand. Columns of figures, dates, initials. Eleanor had looked through it years ago, but understood nothing. It seemed merely a record of transactions, meaningless now. A single key, brass and worn, with no indication of what it might open, and a letter in her father's hand, sealed and addressed to her, which she had never been able to bring herself to open. Eleanor's fingers trembled as she touched the sealed letter. If Ashmont was right, if her father had been innocent. The morning dragged with excruciating slowness. Her aunt, excited by the previous night's attention, subjected Eleanor to detailed speculation about the Marquess's interest, swinging between hope that it indicated matrimonial intent and fear that it signaled something more scandalous. Eleanor endured it, giving nothing away, counting the hours until 3 o'clock. At 2:30, she announced her intention to visit the lending library. Her aunt barely attended, absorbed in composition of a letter to a London friend documenting the extraordinary occurrence. The King's Head Inn stood on High Street, respectable but not fashionable, an establishment that catered to merchants and traveling professionals rather than aristocracy. Eleanor entered through the public room, drawing curious glances, and approached the clerk. "The private parlor," she said quietly. "I am expected." He nodded, no surprise in his expression, and directed her up the stairs. The door he indicated stood ajar. Eleanor pushed it open and entered. The Marquess of Ashmont stood before the fire, still as a statue, his gray eyes fixed on her entry. He was alone. The room was modest but clean, furnished with a settee, 2 chairs, a table, and little else. "Miss Hartwell," he gestured to one of the chairs. "Please sit. I've ordered tea, though it has not yet arrived." Eleanor sat, grateful for the support. Her legs felt unreliable. Ashmont remained standing, studying her with that same intense focus that had unsettled her at the assembly. "You came alone," he observed. "You specified I should. Many women in your position would have insisted on a chaperone regardless, or refused to come at all." There was something almost like approval in his tone. "You are either very brave or very desperate. Perhaps both, my lord." A brief, startling smile touched his mouth, there and gone so quickly, Eleanor almost doubted she'd seen it. I appreciate candor, Miss Hartwell. It will make this conversation considerably more efficient. He moved to the other chair, seated himself with controlled grace. Did you bring the notebook? Eleanor's hand instinctively went to her reticule, where the Morocco-bound journal rested. How did you know about it? Your father was an organized man. He kept detailed records of all transactions. When he died, his study was thoroughly searched by creditors, but certain items were missing from expected locations. I suspected he might have sent them away for safekeeping. Ashmont leaned forward slightly. May I see it? Eleanor withdrew the notebook, held it against her chest. First, tell me everything. Who orchestrated the fraud? Why murder my father? What do you need this for? Those are dangerous questions. Then I am already in danger simply by possessing whatever knowledge this contains. Eleanor met his gaze steadily. I have lived 6 years in disgrace, my lord. I have been pitied and scorned and erased. If I am to risk what little remains of my life, I will know the full truth. Ashmont regarded her in silence for a long moment. Then he nodded, a gesture of what might have been respect. Very well. The man responsible for your father's ruin and death is Sir Malcolm Pritchard, currently Undersecretary to the Home Office, recently knighted for his exemplary service to the Crown. 15 years ago, he established a charitable fund ostensibly to support widows and orphans of soldiers killed in the Peninsular Campaign. In reality, he diverted more than 3/4 of all donations into his own investments, using a complex network of false identities and shell companies. Eleanor felt cold spread through her chest. My father discovered this? Your father was invited to audit the fund's accounts as an independent assessor. He was too thorough. He found discrepancies, began investigating, and uncovered the full scope of Pritchard's theft. Ashmont's voice remained level, but Eleanor detected fury beneath the control. Pritchard could not allow exposure. He constructed an elaborate scheme to frame your father using falsified documents and strategic bribes. When the fraud collapsed, Edwin Hartwell took the blame. Pritchard expressed public regret at having trusted such a man, and the matter was closed. And my father's death? Officially, apoplexy. In truth, Ashmont's jaw tightened fractionally. I have reason to believe he was poisoned, slowly enough to mimic natural decline, but effectively nonetheless. Your father was too broken to defend himself by then, but his death ensured his silence permanently. The room swam. Eleanor gripped the arms of her chair, forcing herself to breathe. Her father, murdered. Not a fool, not a villain, a victim. Why do you care? She asked hoarsely. What is Pritchard to you? 3 years ago, my older brother challenged a man to a duel over allegations of an affair with his wife. The duel killed him. I inherited, unexpectedly. Ashmont's expression had become granite. I have since discovered that the affair was fabricated, evidence planted, witnesses bribed. My brother died defending honor that was never truly stained. Pritchard? Pritchard wanted my brother dead. Our family had blocked a bill he championed in Parliament, cost him significant political capital. He orchestrated the duel as revenge and to remove an obstacle. Ashmont's hands were very still on the arms of his chair. I have spent 2 years gathering evidence. I am close, Miss Hartwell. Very close. But I need proof of his earlier crimes, a pattern that demonstrates methodology. Your father's notebook contains that proof. Eleanor looked down at the worn leather binding. How can you be certain? Because 4 months before his death, your father sent a letter to a colleague, a man I eventually tracked down in Edinburgh. The letter spoke of maintaining a private record as insurance and referenced specific transaction codes. Those codes appear in the notebook you're holding. Then you've known about this for months. Why approach me now? Because Pritchard has learned that I'm investigating him. He's become dangerous. Last week, the Edinburgh colleague I mentioned was killed in what authorities ruled an accidental fire. His home and all its contents were destroyed. Ashmont's gray eyes bored into hers. You are now the only person besides myself who knows what that notebook represents, which means you are in considerable danger whether you choose to help me or not. The pragmatism of it was almost admirable. Eleanor recognized that she'd entered this room with leverage and was leaving with none. If Ashmont was telling the truth, and she believed he was, then her possession of the notebook had already marked her as a target. What do you propose? She asked. Marry me. Eleanor stared at him. Of all the possible responses, this was so far beyond expectation that for a moment she couldn't process the words. I beg your pardon? A marriage of convenience, Ashmont clarified. his tone suggesting he was proposing a business arrangement rather than matrimony. You require protection and social rehabilitation. I require legitimate access to your father's papers and a plausible reason to publicly champion your family's name. As my wife, you will be untouchable. Pritchard would not dare move against a marchioness. We announce our engagement immediately, marry by special license within a fortnight, and I remove you from Harrogate to one of my estates. This is insane. This is practical. He leaned back, fingers steepled. Consider your alternatives, Miss Hartwell. You can refuse my offer, return to your aunt's house with the notebook, and wait for Pritchard's hired men to come for it. They will not be gentle. They will ensure that whatever you know dies with you, and your body will be discovered in some manner that appears accidental or unfortunate. Eleanor's mouth had gone dry. You paint a grim picture. I paint an accurate one. Or you can give me the notebook, walk away from this entirely, and return to your current existence. I will pursue Pritchard without your father's evidence, a longer, more uncertain path, but possible. You will remain poor and obscure, which is its own form of safety. Pritchard has no reason to notice you if you pose no threat. And the third option? You marry me. You gain wealth, position, safety, and the restoration of your father's name. I gain the evidence I need and a wife whose intelligence I respect and whose circumstances ensure she will not harbor romantic delusions about our arrangement. He studied her face. You are thinking that this is a terrible gamble. You would be correct. But sometimes, Miss Hartwell, terrible gambles are the only honest choices available. There was a knock at the door. A maid entered with tea service, arranged it on the table, and departed. Neither Eleanor nor Ashmont moved to pour. Why me? Eleanor asked finally. You could marry anyone, some suitable lady who would bring connections and alliance. Why choose this route? Because I do not want a wife who will expect love or devotion or any of the comforting lies society tells about marriage. I want a partner who understands that this is transaction, mutual benefit extracted from mutual need. You are intelligent, desperate, and pragmatic. Those qualities are more valuable to me than dowries or bloodlines. It was perhaps the most honest marriage proposal in history, Eleanor thought with grim humor. No pretense of affection, no poetry, no false promises, just clear-eyed assessment of advantage. And he was right. God help her, he was absolutely right. She had 3 options, all terrible. Death, obscurity, or marriage to a stranger, for reasons that had nothing to do with her, and everything to do with justice, for crimes she'd never known existed until yesterday. Eleanor picked up the Morocco notebook and extended it toward Ashmont. Then I accept your proposal, my lord. Let us see if we can destroy Sir Malcolm Pritchard together. He took the notebook, their fingers brushing briefly. You understand what you're agreeing to? This is not a fairy story, Miss Hartwell. I will not love you. I will provide for you, protect you, and respect you. But I will not pretend emotions I do not feel. I understand perfectly, Eleanor said, and I require the same from you. No expectations of wifely devotion or domestic bliss. This is alliance, not romance. For the first time since she'd entered the room, something like genuine warmth flickered across Ashmont's austere features. Then we have an understanding. I'll obtain the special license tomorrow. We'll marry Thursday next at my family chapel. I've already arranged for a notice to appear in the London papers. It will print tomorrow morning, announcing our engagement. You were very certain I would agree. No, but I am very efficient in managing all possible outcomes. He opened the notebook, began scanning pages with focused intensity. After a moment, he looked up. There is one other thing. Your aunt and cousin will need to be managed carefully. I'll provide them with a settlement, enough to ensure their cooperation and gratitude. You'll write to them naturally, but I think it best if you do not see them again before the wedding. You're removing me from Harrogate today, within the hour. I have a traveling carriage waiting. You'll stay at my hunting box in Leicestershire until the wedding. Fully chaperoned, my housekeeper is already in residence. I cannot risk Pritchard learning of your value before you're legally protected. He stood, decisive. Go home. Pack essentials only. Tell your aunt that I've made an impetuous proposal and you've accepted. Let her believe whatever romantic fantasy she wishes. I'll call on her within 2 hours to formalize arrangements. Can you be ready? Eleanor rose as well, her legs steadier now that decision was made. Yes, good. He moved to the door, opened it, then paused. Miss Hartwell, Eleanor, I will keep you safe. That is not romantic declaration. It is tactical necessity. But it is also promise. Do you understand? She met his gray eyes and saw in them the same cold determination she felt crystallizing in her own chest. I understand. And when this is finished, when Pritchard is destroyed and my father's name restored, what becomes of us? We remain married, Ashmont said simply. That is the bargain. But you will have independence, resources, and freedom within that bond. I will not cage you, Eleanor. I require only that we maintain the appearance of contentment for society's observation. Then we have an accord. He smiled, brief, genuine. Indeed we do. Welcome to dangerous waters, my dear. Try not to drown.